As of writing this podcast script, I have recently graduated from high school a few months ago, and I am now enrolled as a college student in Hunter College full time. I have my first Intro to classes this term, mapping out my major with my advisor on a computer, and I am applying to internships around New York. Now, I am writing a research paper for my English professor, and I am really excited for what college awaits for me. Or at least I was. My excitement led to sadness, as the internships I looked for were remote, the advising I sought for classes was through discussion, and the classes I longed to take since high school were online. I wasn't the only one who felt like this, as millions of kids around the world had to adapt to online school, Zoom calls, and unfortunately, not being near friends and letting go of the fun expectations of traveling to the city for college. Overall, online school has brought negative effects on students, whether in ruining their hopes, making them anxious, or making them feel a sense of loneliness. There's no denying the devastating effects COVID 19 has had on people around the world, whether it is directly the loss of loved ones to the virus or people losing jobs because of the inability to maintain businesses after their abrupt closure. However, it seems that the youth who are fulfilling an education are feeling the blunt reality of this as well, as in New York, schools have now gone fully remote as of November 18th, 2020, due to the citywide positivity rate going over 3%. While physically, it is good for students as they run a lower risk of catching the virus and spreading it to vulnerable family members, mentally and emotionally, it is tolling on the young developing mind. Why is it then that students are disappointed and drained because of online school? The answer of why it drains us is simple. We aren't used to this, especially for students looking forward to school every year. Students rely on school to create friendships, learn key life lessons, and make memories that will last a lifetime. Seniors in high school especially were in no way prepared for this, and as a senior during COVID, I heavily relate with this fact. If you were to ask me how I would picture senior year as a freshman, I would never mention masks, gloves, and definitely not a virus that can cause a cytokine storm. Instead, I would bring up the excitement of college orientation, dancing with my date at the prom, and graduation photos at Yankee Stadium. Seniors of the class of 2020 all had those visuals in their heads. The hopes and dreams that we've built up since middle school, the intense studying we did to pass to advance to senior year, and then it all disappeared just like that. It hurts more than how the media plays us off. The media shows students sad, devastated that they lost the biggest moments of their high school career, whether it is a dance at prom with someone they love, or walking the stage at graduation with the diploma they proudly earned. Not only that, but they interviewed several star students, detailing their experience of staying at home and how they lost out on many key events they strive to see. As a senior, I expected senior year would be the best year of my life, filled with the excitement of prom, graduation, and moving on towards college and advancing through life. The only tears I thought would come down my face was when, on the last day of school, saying goodbye to the friends I have made for the past 4 years. Instead, I am crying because of the lost opportunity, the reality of no prom, the pain of losing out on a physical graduation, and also feeling like the 4 years of hard work went to waste. I wasn't alone in this belief about senior year, as seniors not even from my school felt the same sadness we all felt. Last week, I interviewed my coworker Jonathan Baez, and in his perspective, he felt that it was all too tolling. Not only do I not feel like I'm not learning anything, but I was really upset with how I'm not going to do what my brother did senior year. Whether it was the drive-in graduation or getting a diploma mailed to you instead of on stage, it was upsetting and a letdown. This sadness continued even in online college, where Jonathan commented how I don't want to take a gap year, but it still feels draining. I'm not learning like it did. This shows how not only has online school drained the seniors of their year, but drained them of learning in general. You might ask, well, what about non-graduating students? What about freshmen, sophomores, and juniors? They might have not lost one of the key parts of their schooling life, but also losing out on crucial development skills that can better their lives, the skills of social interaction. There's no mistaking the importance of interaction between high school students in this day of age. The interactions we witness and experience are important to us. They help us grow. They help us experience different views. They give us a better understanding of the world around us. While this generation has the stereotype of being antisocial and distancing ourselves from peers in the face of social media, this is entirely wrong. Social media has been an important part of my generation's development, but it has in no way made us distance ourselves from others. In fact, it has gotten us closer together, as we can all discuss easily accessible news and new social media trends with both friends online and IRL. With all these interactions and ways to communicate, teens are learning great communication skills and perceive the world better than teens of past generations. They are exposed to the many social cues necessary for cooperation and maintaining valuable work ethics. They can not only expand their knowledge of how other people function, but also how they work, exposing themselves to ways they can improve and develop their character more. However, their exposure has been put to a halt now that exposing themselves to others physically could lead to the exposures of one of the most deadly respiratory viruses the world has seen since SARS in 2003. With how dangerous the novel coronavirus can be to its victims, it is no wonder that schools had to be closed. With the way the hallways are crowded and physical contact not uncommon, it would be a breeding ground for the virus to spread through the air, leaving online school as the safest route for teaching students. However, this is inadequate for teens' health, as although they are getting the same curriculum that they would in school, they are not getting the same social interactions they desire and not living the expectations they had about high school. The radical changes of schooling can easily lead to loneliness, anxiety, and even depression. Anika Halquist expresses the idea by explaining how the shift from seeing at least 50 people a day to only her parents gave her a sense of loneliness and worries about her emotional state when going back in September. The idea that we are no longer around our peers and missing out on many social interactions is detrimental to a kid's mental health. Students missing out on interacting with people outside of their family is harmful, as they will take longer to process and understand different social cues as they grow up, even if they fortunately are able to return to school in person. You might still wonder, well, what about the teens who do not fret over social interaction or prefer to be introverted? What consequences await them? Well, aside from the eye strain that accompanies overuse of digital technology, there's still a plethora of signs that show mental strain on the students' minds. It is obvious that the spread of the virus has not solely affected just students, but also their teachers, family members, and other aspects of school that plagues their mind. While the trips to school in the morning have come to the halt, their parents' jobs most likely haven't, as if they aren't essential workers on the front line, they're either working from home full-time or flat out unemployed. If it is not the fear of the family being in financial ruin, then it's their parents contracting COVID-19 in their workforce that can attack them. It has been shown that many students have said they are dealing with the trauma of sick or dying family members, economic hardship, and disruption to the life they once had. If the fear of illness or financial instability is not enough, there's still the stigma of being at home that haunts them dearly. When people think about their home and school, they usually think of relaxing and easing themselves off of the stress-filled environment that resides in schools. With online school, the motivation they would feel in school, the rush to do stuff to apply for college and scholarships, all of that has been brought to a bare minimum, almost as if it was non-existent. In an interview with Michael Rich, an associate professor and pediatrics at Harvard Medical School, he states students are unmoored and that in online schooling, they do not feel like going to another Zoom class. They do not feel like finishing their college applications. This illustrates that the mental health crisis extends to much more than just anxiety. It also extends to affecting a student's motivation. Not only is it shown that students are getting fatigued from the thought of online school, but the sadness of being online that drains students even more. Well then, if this is the case, then how do we respond to this? How do we assist students in online schooling when there's so much potentially going on in their life? Well, I feel that the answer is simple, but it does not involve what many would think. While many people would be willing to throw the caution in the wind and protest to let their kids go back to the physical school, I do not believe this would be effective in recovering their mental health. In fact, it would worsen their mental health, as not only they would still worry about school, but also worry about bringing home the virus and spreading it to loved ones unintentionally. Instead, I believe the best way to respond to their mental health is to incorporate more virtual events that can help them cope with their fears and sadness. One thing that is going to disappear with online school is the physical interactions between students and teachers. Because of COVID, they will fail to make physical connections like students prior have done. Despite this, there's still a way to make bonds with your students, and no matter what, teachers are always there to help their students navigate through tough times, whether it's for school or just understanding basic morals in life. This has not changed at all. Even while online school takes full control, all over the United States, schools have been training to attend to students' needs both academically and emotionally, such as developing external ways to keep in contact with students if they need help. School districts like Los Angeles United are running hotlines to provide services for families to check on their students' well being, while others have established virtual wellness rooms and unveiling new or expanded social emotional curricula to help students process their feelings. With this in place, students can still be able to connect to their teachers, still state their feelings, and express their fears of the pandemics. With this in place, it is possible to imagine what students' fears can be alleviated, albeit under different circumstances. The interaction outside of their family members, the ability to express their fears, and the chance to open their minds again helps a lot in regards to a student's mental health. When they let out their emotions and stop bottling it up, it makes them feel valid. It makes them feel more at ease with themselves. While it doesn't take their fears away, it still gets them through the day. As while our fears cannot be cured by a vaccine or disappear with hand sanitizer, that does not mean we have to fight all alone. Mental health is something not exclusive to students in a teaching environment. The point is, we are in this together. Teachers need their students to help keep check on each other so that we can have a healthy relationship even in online schooling. These relationships aren't limited to just being developed online, as although COVID is still around, we can still have real life interactions, with the rule being that we must stand 6 feet apart and, of course, wear masks. Schools that were lucky to pick up on this were able to produce drive-by graduations around the country. These events involved high school seniors, other non-high school graduators like 8th graders, 5th graders, and some preschoolers go around in their car, driving by the school campus to receive their cap and gown, and in some cases, diploma. Other than that, there were outside ceremonies where instead of taking place inside of a traditional stadium or gymnasium, they took place outside of buildings where the virus is not easy to spread. I went through this, as instead of graduating at Yankee Stadium, I just went up to my high school and retrieved my diploma, with teachers and students celebrating at a distance from each other. While this is uncanny to many, it is the thought that still counts. Even during crisis, even during unrest, people can still celebrate in person. People can still cherish the simple times they have in love. As stated, online school has put a huge weight on the mental health of students as it ruined their expectations, gave them feelings of anxiety, and also made them lonely. However, just because they are in quarantine does not mean there's no solution to these mental health crises, as multiple schools and districts make sure to reach out and care for students in this dire time of need. Although we cannot go back to school physically, that does not mean we are limited in our own options to show care for students and help them through a difficult time they would have never expected to happen.